So we were discussing, I was supposed to show you something, right? But unfortunately, I didn't find time to work on it. But it's a very simple activity that can be done. If possible, I'll record it tomorrow. So yesterday we discussed one important point. What is it? We saw what is viscosity and we saw what is the cause of viscosity. Let's recollect what we discussed. So what is viscosity? Two subsequent layers of need not be water of any liquid you talk. Okay, subsequent liquid layers, there will be a what? There will be a backward dragging force, which we call it as viscosity, or we call it as viscous force, right? So generally we call it, yeah. So what is the cause of viscosity? So the top layer will try to accelerate the bottom layer, but the bottom layer will not cooperate, right? So due to which there will be a friction that is going to come into picture and that will act in the backward direction, right? So keeping this point in mind, we are going to see some mathematical equations that are associated with this chapter. The first one is called as the coefficient of viscosity. So what is this coefficient of viscosity? Let's see. So it is represented by a symbol written like this. This is called as neta. It's a Greek letter. Neta, N-E-T-A. Okay. So if I consider, so as shown in the figure, suppose a liquid is flowing steadily in the form of what? In the form of parallel layers on a fixed horizontal surface, then what we can do is you can consider two layers, right? You can consider two layers P and Q at slightly different distances from the fixed surface. So with respect to the fixed surface, Okay. So with respect to the fixed surface, let's say the first layer is at a distance x and the second layer is at a slightly greater distance, which is x plus dx. So what is the difference between those two layers? It is going to be dx. So in a similar way, if you look at the horizontal paths, if the velocity of the layer P is v, what will be the velocity of the layer slightly above it? It will be slightly greater. It is going to be v plus dv, right? So between these two layers, these are subsequent layers, right? For the sake of understanding, we drew them with slightly different distances, but they are very close to each other. So the friction is going to act between those two layers in which direction? Obviously in the backward direction. So this force is what we call it as the viscous drag or the viscous force. I hope I'm clear till this point, right? So then if you are able to define a parameter like this, if you are able to define a differential coefficient of velocity with respect to distance, okay, dv by dx, then that has a special name called as velocity gradient. Okay, let me give you a heads up of what gradient means. It's not a very big term. Gradient is another name given to any idea? Slope. So I've learned slope in your straight lines, right? Mathematics. What is it? Y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So whenever you take physics into consideration, there are two things that will come into picture. One is called rate of change with respect to time. Okay, if I put dv by dt, what do I call it as? Rate of change of velocity with respect to time is what? Acceleration. If I call the rate of change of velocity with respect to distance, I write it as dv by dx. So whichever parameter has dx, that is distance in the denominator, is generally given a suffix called as gradient. Gradient of whom? Gradient of whatever values in the numerator. So velocity is in the numerator, x is there, so put together it is velocity gradient. Had it been something like this, dA divided by dx, where A is acceleration, what do I call it as? You call it as acceleration gradient. Suppose it is potential, dV by dx, whatever is in the numerator, potential gradient. About this potential gradient, you will learn it next year. I hope you're able to understand. So that is how the terms are named in science. Okay. So the dV by dx is the rate of change of velocity with distance in the direction of increasing distance and is also called as velocity gradient. Right. So there are certain observations that are done. We need not get into the proof aspect. So the things that are observed are given to us, which we can just follow to understand what is coefficient of viscosity. First thing that they told us, the force of viscosity acting tangentially, that is the drag force acting, is observed to be directly proportional to something. What is it? Directly proportional to the area of contact. Okay. Secondly, it is directly proportional to the velocity gradient. Right? So these are the two important parameters that are going to help us find the value of viscous force. Right? So when you combine both, what are you going to get? F is directly proportional to A into dV by dx. So is it a supporting force or a resistive force? Obviously, a resistive force. So whenever you remove the proportionality symbol, you need to introduce a constant, and that constant that is introduced here is neta into dV divided by dx with a negative sign here. Why did I put the minus sign? Because of the resistive force, and that neta is what we call it as. I introduced. It's called as the coefficient of viscosity. Like how you have something called as coefficient of friction. F is equal to mu n. Remember, something similar to that you have called as coefficient of viscosity. So please write it down. Which point? This one. Huh? It is proportional to the area of the layers in contact. It is proportional to the area of the layers in contact. So F is directly proportional to A, and it is also directly proportional to what? The velocity gradient. That is dV by dx. Please write it down. That's the simple use.
Sir?
Yeah, please tell.
Sir, so this area, what area are we talking about? Like
Area
layers?
of, yeah, area of the layers in contact. This area, see, you're able to see the diagram. They have given certain part, right? If this part is in contact with the equivalent part, both the layers are considered to be of the same area. This area is what they are trying to say.
Sir, so basically it's layers of fluid, right?
Yeah, layers of fluid.
So if fluid change doesn't have a fixed shape, right?
But it depends on how much area you're trying to define. Right. So when you're doing the experiment, you can't take infinite value and do it, right? You're going to take a sample and do it. So they would have also done taking a sample and done the experiment. When that was done, it was observed that if the area of the sample was varied, then the force also varied.
Sir, so it basically depend on the shape of the container in which fluid.
Shape of the container, here, one important point you missed, what is it? The first itself I told, it depends, suppose a liquid is flowing steadily. When you're talking about steadily, there are going to be parallel layers.
Fine, sir.
Got it? So here, you will be concerned about all those things only when it is a turbulent flow. Here everything is considered in the steady condition. That is why yesterday also, if you see the cause of viscosity, I told you one important point. Consider a liquid moving slowly and steadily. Under that scenario only these things are going to happen. You're able to understand? So whatever we are discussing, we are still not out of the steady concept, steady flow concept. Though it is a non-ideal liquid because it has some viscosity. You're able to understand? Here, neta is called as the coefficient of viscosity of the liquid. So it depends on what? It depends on the nature of liquid, obviously. And it gives the measure of viscosity. So negative sign indicates that the viscous force acts in the direction opposite to the direction of motion of the liquid. Now we need to define it. Right? So now since it is subjective, like let's assume, I don't know how the blueprint is going to be, but let's assume it is subjective question and you're asked to write this definition. Okay, there are two options. One is you can either memorize it or understand it, right? So let's try to understand in a better way. See, generally, whenever you have a mathematical equation, so what is the mathematical equation you have? F is equal to minus neta into A into dV by dx. Okay. Here, there are certain parameters which I can control. What are they? So there are certain parameters which we can control, which is going to give you the respective output. So whenever you have a mathematical equation, right, the one which is on the left of the equal to symbol is called as the dependent variable. The one on the right hand side, we call it as the independent variable. It's a simple logic, right? So force is dependent on certain parameters. What is it? Neta. Because it is depending on the nature of liquid. Based on that only the viscous force will come into picture. Second, area of contact. Third, the velocity gradient. Right. Now, I am interested to calculate what? I am interested to define which parameter? Viscous coefficient of viscosity. So I will try to define the coefficient of viscosity in terms of force. I'll try to bring a relation between one of the independent variables which I am concerned about with respect to a dependent variable, that is force. If I have to create a relation, then what should I do to A and dV by dx? Can I make them unity? Unity in the sense, can I make them as one? If I make them one, then what is going to happen? If I ignore the minus sign, try to understand. I know I'm speaking a little bit of logic here, but this is how it works. This is how physics works. Try to understand. With this, you will understand the other definitions also. So if I put A is equal to 1 and dV by dx also 1. 1 means 1 unit or whatever it is, meter per second, centimeter per second, whatever it is, I'm not concerned. Now, if I do this, I am able to find a mathematical relation, something like this. So what is the mathematical equation telling us? The viscous force is equal to the coefficient of viscosity under what scenario? When the area and the velocity gradient are each equal to unit value. Right. Now from this we will try to define. So how do you define coefficient of viscosity from this? It is defined as the amount of viscous force that comes between, try to understand. Can I say neta is equal to the viscous force that comes into picture between the two subsequent layers whose area of contact is 1 unit and the velocity gradient is 1 unit. That is how it is. Okay, so that is how physics works. See, I'll give you another example of how these definitions are given. Please don't memorize it going forward. If I ask you what is velocity, what will you say? ds by dt in terms of this is an instantaneous value. Okay, so how do you define it? Rate of change of displacement. The better way to define it is, I can say the amount of displacement passed per unit time. Think about it. Amount of displacement, that is the value in the numerator, cost per unit time. Why are you using the word unit time? I can say V is equal to ds when dt is equal to 1. You're able to understand? That is the reason why they define it like this. Using the same logic, this f is equal to theta is also different. I hope you're clear, right? Now I'll show you the definition, you can copy it. Okay. So write down this expression, f is equal to neta into a into dv by dx, ignoring the minus sign because we know the significance of it. F is equal to, please write it down, f is equal to neta into a, I forgot an a here, sorry. Neta into a into dv by dx, ignore the minus sign. Left hand side is dependent. When you write y is equal to f of x, functions clear, y is dependent, x is independent. So a is equal to 1, dy by dx is equal to 1. Put it. Then what will happen? F will be equal to neta. In bracket, what is given? Numerically. So numerically, these two values are going to be the same. F is equal to neta. So from this, let's write down the definition. So coefficient of viscosity of a liquid may be defined as what? As the tangential viscous force required to maintain, and I'll read it out, please write it down. Coefficient of viscosity of a liquid may be defined as the tangential viscous force required to maintain a unit velocity gradient. Unit velocity gradient required to maintain, till where did you write it? Tangential viscous force required to maintain what? Unit velocity gradient between layers of how much area? Unit area. Between required to maintain unit velocity gradient between layers of unit area. Okay. So I'll give you 2 minutes time. Okay, find the dimensional formula of coefficient of viscosity and time. So rearrange the equation, find out the dimensional formula and time. Number T. So neta is equal to what? F by A to dx by dt. So neta will be equal to F by A into dx by dv. F is what? ml T minus 2, mass into acceleration, divided by area is L square into dv by dx is T inverse T minus 1. So what are you going to get? ml minus 1 Oh, sorry. Dx is L, t plus 1, sorry. So it is t plus 1, so ml minus 1, t minus 1. Right. Shall I proceed? So this is what is the dimensional formula of this thing. Nextly, we are supposed to see what is the unit of coefficient of viscosity. So if I ask you what is the unit of coefficient of friction, what do you say? F is equal to mu into n. What is the unit of coefficient of friction there? Let me see how much. F is equal to mu into n. What does that n stand for? Forgot. Normal force. Left side is also force. Right side is also force. So F is mu is equal to F by n. It's a dimensionless constant. Whereas in the case of coefficient of viscosity, it is depending on certain parameters because it has some dimensions. Mass dimension is 1, length dimension is -1, and time dimension is also -1. It has some dimensions, right? So it should have a unit associated. What is going to be the unit of it? So the CGS unit of meter is going to be dyne per centimeter square. Is it right? Sorry, dyne second per centimeter square. Is it right? Check and tell me. So just now we wrote no. Let's validate and see. No? So F is measured in dyne by centimeter square into second. So dyne second per centimeter square. And what is going to be the SI unit? Newton per meter square second or Newton second meter power minus. Right. So these two are written like this. So dyne second per centimeter square, or dyne can also be written in terms of gram and something. Right. When you convert dyne in terms of the fundamental quantities, so dyne is a derived quantity. Right. When you write it in fundamental quantity, see what are you going to get in terms of grams and all other parameters. So dyne is what? For force. Force is mass into acceleration. So mass is in grams, acceleration is in centimeter per second square. Do all those manipulations and tell me what you're getting. Maybe this can be a 1 mark question. Dyne second per centimeter square in terms of gram. So gram per centimeter per second. Did you get gram per centimeter per second? Because dyne is what? So it is gram centimeter per second square divided by centimeter square into second. So 1 centimeter is gone, 1 second is gone. So gram centimeter inverse second inverse. What will be the equivalent in terms of SI? It is going to be kilogram meter inverse second inverse. Okay, these all things have a special name. It is very, very important for you to understand. Okay, shall I move on? Yes, sir. So the CGS unit is going to be dyne second per centimeter square or gram per centimeter per second, which is collectively called as POISE. POISE. Okay, that is in which unit? In the CGS unit. Like how you call the CGS unit of force as dyne, the collection of what? Dyne second per centimeter square is what? POISE. Okay. Similarly, so they have tried to define it in terms of POISE also. See how are they defined? The coefficient of viscosity of a liquid is said to be 1 POISE under what condition? When a tangential force of 1 dyne per centimeter square of the surface is required to maintain a relative velocity of 1 centimeter per second between two layers which are 1 centimeter. You need not memorize all these things. I'm just telling you all this. You need not memorize it. Don't worry about that. Please tell me. Relative velocity of 1 centimeter per second between the layers which are separated by 1 centimeter. So then what will become the velocity gradient? 1 by 1, it is still 1. So instead of giving dv by dx, dv is what? Difference between velocity is relative velocity. So that's what they have taken into consideration. I told you, you need not memorize it. I just gave you a heads up of how it is different. Okay. Secondly, what is going to be the SI unit? Dyne second per centimeter square is replaced with Newton second per meter square or kilogram per meter per second. So all these things put together is also called as decapoise, or it has another name called as Poisson. Okay. So this is Poissuille. Poissuille. So what is the other name for Poisson? It's called decapoise. What is deca? 10. Deca is 10, right? So why is it? We know what is poise. Can you tell me what is the relation between poise and Poisson? You know, you have studied about the conversions from one unit to another in units and measurements. So tell me how much is one dyne second per centimeter square in terms of Newton second per meter square. Do the conversion and tell me. Or I will put the question like this: 1 Newton second per meter square is equal to x times 1 dyne second per centimeter square. What is the value of x? Is it x is coming out as 10? Right. So this dyne second per centimeter square is poise. X is 10. So 10 poise is what we call it as decapoise. And this is what this is also called as Poisson. Right? I hope you're clear. Right. So it is going to be 10 points. So shall we do some problems which are based on this concept? Let's try them out. So there is a metal plate. Okay, there is a metal plate whose area is 5 centimeter into 5 centimeter, which rests on a layer of castor oil. I'm not sure if you have seen castor oil. Vehicle they use it. So that oil will be very, very thick. You have seen it. Next time if you go to a petrol bunk or something, observe it. Okay, castor oil, which is 1 millimeter thick. Okay, what is 1 millimeter thick? The layer is 1 millimeter thick, whose coefficient of viscosity is 1.55 Newton second per meter square. It is also already a pre-calculated value. Now we need to understand how much is the horizontal force required to move the plate with a speed of 2 centimeters per second. Try to calculate. So did you understand the question? Please write it down. I'll read the question. You need not write down everything. Try to collect the data. There is a metal plate. Okay. So let's say this mobile phone is the metal plate, which is kept on top of what? On top of a layer of castor oil. Right. So what is the area of this metal plate? It is 5 centimeter into 5 centimeter. So it is taken as a rectangular plate. Okay. And what is the distance between the layers? 1 millimeter. Right. And the coefficient of viscosity is given as 1.55 Newton second per meter square. So what is the velocity expected? What is the velocity expected? 2 centimeter per second. Now what is the question? They are asking, find the horizontal force required. Whenever you see the word required, right, they are asking what is the minimum force that we need to overcome to achieve this target. So what will be the minimum force that we need to overcome? It is the viscous force that is acting. That is the indirect meaning of the question. So calculate. You have the formula in your hand. F is equal to eta into A into dV by dx. Substitute. Convert. 1 point. You're not able to see. 1.55. 1.55. I think you're sitting in a wrong place. Are you able to see the reflection of the projector here? Yeah. Then I think you can come here also. Or you can maybe sit there also. Just try and see. Neta is 1.55 Newton second per meter square. If the calculation is easy, there is only multiplication, do it fast and verify if the answer is right. Raghav, you got the answer already? What are you thinking? Centimeter into centimeter. A centimeter square is 1 centimeter square is how many meters square? 10 power minus 2. And the conversion would just centimeter per second converted to 10 power minus 2 meter per second. You did all those things. 1 millimeter is 10 power minus 3. Substitute. You can either tell me the answer in terms of decimal or in terms of multiples of 10 also. There came no thickness is what is dx? Thickness is 1 millimeter. Well, students on the other side, any doubt? Things are clear?
Sir,
Tell me.
so 1 millimeter will be equal to 10 to the power minus 3 meter.
Milli is 10 power minus 3.
Yeah.
Fast. It's a simple problem. We have more minus 2. If you get 7.73 to 10 power minus 2, what it is? Minus 6, sir. In terms of diagonal. Okay, 7.75 point C, 7.75 you get, if you get into 10 power minus 2, then check if there is any calculation mistake you did. Is this expression right? 1.55 is the value of theta, no conversion required. Correct? So area is 25 into 10 power minus 4. dV is 2 centimeters. So 2 into 10 power minus 2 divided by 10 power minus 3. Millimeter you didn't convert. Divided by 10 power minus 3. So please check your calculation. Now it is right. 7.75 to 10 power minus 2. That's right. So I hope everyone is clear, right? I want to move on to the next one. This is an NCERT problem. What are they saying? There is a square metal plate. Okay, there is a square metal plate of 10 centimeter side moves parallel to another plate with a velocity of 10 centimeter per second. Both plates are immersed in water. If the viscous force is 200 dyne and viscosity of water is 0.01 poise, what is their distance apart? Let me read out the question again. There is a square metal plate of side how much value? 10 centimeter. Moves parallel to another plate with a velocity of 10 centimeters per second. Both the plates are what? They are immersed into water. So indirectly what they are trying to say is there is a layer of water that is existing between these two plates. Right? If that is the case, if the viscous force of 200 dyne, if the viscous force is 200 dyne, and the viscosity of the water which is already calculated is 0.01 poise, what is their distance apart? So what is the distance of separation between those two plates for this kind of a scenario to occur? Right, here, it's a related velocity. Because they told it is moves parallel to another plate with a velocity rate. That is related. So that is dV. Okay. So what is the value of area? So same formula. We have only one formula. You need not think anything. Viscosity only formula. F is equal to theta into A into dV by dx. Unless asked, don't put the minus sign. F is equal to theta into A into dV by dx. What is the value of theta? 0.01 poise. Right? 10 centimeter per second. Square side is also 10 centimeter. No need to convert. Everything is in CGS unit. Write the answer in terms of centimeters. Had it been an MCQ question, maybe you have to look at the units what they're asking. Okay, that time you need to be careful. Zero 0.05, correct, 1 by 20. So you get 1 by 20 centimeter. It's a simple problem, right? I'm assuming that you all can do it, right? Anyone online? Any guys online? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. So proceeding to the next one, the 30th example, there is a flat square, okay, flat square of side 20 centimeter, which moves over an other thin plate with a thin layer of 0.4 centimeter of liquid between them. Write down the data. What are they saying? There is a flat square plate of side how much? 20 centimeter, moves over an other similar plate, similar is same 20 centimeter, with how much? With a thin layer of how much value? 0.4 centimeter of liquid between these two layers. Okay. If the force of 1 kilogram weight, see 1 kilogram weight is generally 9.8 Newton. That's not mostly used in NCERT, but if at all you get it in the future, understand. So 1 kilogram weight is nothing but weight of the weight experienced by 1 kilogram substance. How much will be the weight experienced by it? 1 into 9.8. So 9.8 Newton. That is the meaning of it. So 1 kilogram weight moves one of the plates uniformly with a velocity of 1 meter per second. Calculate the coefficient of viscosity. So again, 1 meter per second. So I repeat the question. If a force of 1 kilogram weight moves one of the plates uniformly, means steadily, with a velocity of 1 meter per second, our job is to find the coefficient of viscosity. Find it out. Same formula. You have all the data, do it fast. Now you should do it faster. How much? No? 9 point. The series gram per centimeter per second, or 9 seconds per centimeter square. Okay, how much are you getting? 98 hours. Okay, tell me one thing. 1 kilogram weight, how much did you take? You took 9.8, correct? That is a Newton. You should take it as 980 times. See, there are two options for you, whichever you are comfortable. It's up to you. If you're comfortable with SI, convert everything to SI and that's all. If you're comfortable with stages, go with it. 9.8 into -3. Anyone having any doubt, guys? So listen, I just want to tell one more point. 9 second per centimeter square is there, right? Or Newton second per meter square. What is Newton per meter square basically? Pascal. So you can also call it as Pascal into second. That's what they're given here. But 9 per centimeter square, any idea? What is CGS unit? CGS unit of pressure. What did he say? It's bar. BAR. It's bar. Okay. Or you can write it as bar second. Are you able to understand? Conversion part, I'm leaving it to you. See, generally, for school exam, you will not go this stuff and all. Okay, I'm just sharing it for the sake of knowledge. It will be a simple and a direct question. Okay, we'll do one last problem based on the same concept. Then we'll go to the next theoretical part. Okay, so there's an interesting question. Try to solve this. This involves a little bit of mechanics as well. So this problem. So what is written there? There is a metal plate of area 0.1 meter square, which is connected to 0.01 kilogram mass through a string that passes over an ideal pulley. So what do you mean by ideal pulley? It is massless and frictionless, right? And it will not rotate also. Okay, as shown in the figure. So there is a liquid with the film of thickness 0.3 millimeter, which is placed between the plate and the table. Okay, 0.3 millimeter, which is placed between the plate and the table. When released, the plate moves to the right with a constant speed of 0.085 meter per second. Find the coefficient of viscosity of liquid. So try to understand this question. Before, don't be in a hurry to solve. First, try to analyze what they are trying to say. So what is there in the system? You have a mass of how much value? 0.01 kilogram. The 0.01 kilogram is hanging in the form of a ball. Right? That is connected to whom? That is connected to a metal plate of area, how much value? 0.1 meter square, the base area. Okay. Now what is happening? Had this metal plate been on the surface, okay. Let's say this is the horizontal surface. Had the metal plate been on the surface, do you think there would have been a possibility for the 0.01 kilogram to pull this metal plate? Depends. Depends on the mass of it. Because we have to calculate, right? What equations will you write? Mg minus T is equal to Ma, T is equal to Ma. You remember all those equations? You write something like that. But what are they doing here? To make this mechanical process smooth, they are kind of greasing this surface. Greasing is making the surface a smooth surface, right? So to make it smooth, what they are doing between the metal plate and the horizontal surface, they are adding a thin film of some soap solution, I think, right? A liquid with film, okay, whatever liquid, I'm not concerned about what it is. Okay, let's assume it's a grease or something. And that film is having a thickness of how much value? There is a slight gap between the horizontal fixed surface and this, so that the grease or whatever you have added is acting as the layer for it to slip. Now think of the logic. When will this 0.01 kilogram be able to pull that metal plate? The 0.01 kilogram doesn't have any direct contact with the metal plate, first point to be noted. So it is using a medium to pull. What is the medium it is using? It is using a string. So whenever the concept of string comes into picture, there are 2 points that are there in our mind. What is it? One is string is massless. The second is it is inextensible. When that is the case, the tension is going to be the same throughout. At the end points, it is going to be an action reaction there. So tension here is the same as the tension here. So it is getting transmitted. But how much should be the minimum value of this tension? How much should be the minimum value of this tension for this metal plate to move with a constant speed of 0.085 meter per second? This is what I need you to answer. What is the logic? What force is the tension supposed to overcome to create a velocity of this much value? Yes, it has to overcome the viscous drag. It has to overcome the viscous drag. Because the liquid that you have added there, they didn't say it is a completely smooth surface. How is it shear stress? Stress and stress has what dimension? Dimension of pressure, correct? Force per unit area. That is shear stress, but force, system force. Okay, so they both can't be this. So are you able to understand what I'm trying to say? Did you understand the logic first? Then you can solve the problem. That's not a big thing. Right? Can you guys try this now? I think everybody is having a textbook, right? Right, it's a textbook problem. Please look at it and try to solve it. Don't look at the solution. Raghav, page number, Ada? 263, 263. It's a textbook problem. Look at the diagram and try to solve it. I think it's on the right hand side, correct? That one. So don't look at the solution, try to solve it on your own. Others, I think you can see this diagram itself because it is clear enough. So you apply your logic first. So here they maintain, they use one important word. What is it? They told before the speed there is a word that you need to underline. It is very, very important. They told it is constant speed. Means the system is not undergoing any acceleration. So what will be the tension that is acting the same in this case? It is exactly equal to, it will be equal to the weight of the ball which is hanging. Because how will you write the mathematical equation using Newton's second order? mg, this is t. How will you generally write it? If the acceleration was in this direction, you write mg minus t is equal to m Newton's second law. Right, but what is the value of a? 0. Yeah. Uniform velocity. So mg will be equal to t. But here what m should I take? I should take 0.01 kilogram. Okay, if you take that tension, then this tension here is exactly equal to how much value? Viscous force. It's actually approximately equal to viscous force. It gives a slightly greater value. But for the sake of calculations, we use exactly. Guys are able to understand and visualize it, that is more important, right? It will be greater. That's what I'm saying. Just sufficient enough to put it. So whenever that word just sufficient enough is written, right? So the difference between the speed and the viscous force will be very, very small. So that the limit can be approximated to 0. That is the meaning. Or you can visualize it in a different way. You can say since it is moving with constant velocity, when will unbalanced force come into picture? When the object is accelerated. Or can you say something like this? When unbalanced force is there, the object will accelerate. Will you accept the statement of me? Think about it. When I say there is an object which is subjected to unbalanced force, it will accelerate. Right? But what do they say? Here is the object accelerating. So it is under dynamic equilibrium. So wherever the object is in motion but not having any acceleration is said to be in dynamic equilibrium. If the object is at rest and it does not have any acceleration, you call it as static equilibrium. Okay.
Sir, in dynamic equilibrium, you are talking about uniform motion, right?
Yes, uniform motion. So equilibrium itself means acceleration is 0. Please make a note of that point. Am I clear, guys? You're able to solve it? Can you do it fast and tell me what is the answer? So neta is equal to f by a into dx by dv. What is the value of f you got? F is the numerical value of tension. How much is it? 0. You took a GS10. Okay. So 0.1. Okay, 0.1. What is the value of A? 0.1 meters square. So that 0.1 and the 0.1 will get cancelled. So what is the value of dV? 0.085. That will be the denominator. What is the distance? 0.3 into 10 power minus 3. Correct? Solve it, you will get the answer. So remaining calculation part, you guys can do it later. Okay. So now we will go to the next concept, that is comparison between viscous force and solid friction. Okay, there are certain points of similarity and there are certain, let's see what are the points of similarity and points of differences. Okay. So first one, what are the points of similarity? Both viscous force and solid friction come into play when there is a relative motion. So the work of friction in this whole world is to only oppose the relative motion. Secondly, both oppose the motion. Right. Third, both are due to the molecular attraction that is happening. Okay. As I told you, it depends. Viscosity also depends on the nature of the liquid that you're using. With again the chemistry that is going to come into picture. Then, what are the points of differences? First, viscous force is directly proportional to the area of contact of layers, whereas solid friction doesn't depend on the area of contact. It doesn't depend at all. So, whether you do the activity, let's say a simple activity is there actually. Most of you guys have done that. Any idea of how to calculate coefficient of friction? By using spring balance and a block. Have you ever done it? Any idea? No, no problem. So suppose there is a block. Okay, I have a hook here. Right, I have a U-shaped hook. To that hook, I'm connecting a spring balance. So that spring balance, if I start pulling it, after a certain force is attained, this will start moving. So based on the relation, so you know the mass of the block. So you calculate the normal reaction. So this force, whichever is there, you equate it to this value. You divide it with the normal force that will give you the coefficient of friction. It's a simple activity. Okay? So whether you do that activity like this, or you keep the mobile phone like this, or you keep it like this and do, you can observe that the coefficient of friction of that surface is still the same. That is why they are saying it is independent of the area of contact. That is the reason. Okay. Whereas in the case of viscous force, it is changing. Coefficient of friction. The friction itself doesn't depend on the area of contact. That is what they say. Okay. Secondly, it is directly proportional to the relative velocity between the layers, whereas here what is happening, it is independent of the relative velocity. That's what the expression says. Third, it is independent of the normal reaction between the layers, because in liquids you do not speak about normal reaction. There it is directly proportional to the normal reaction, because F is equal to mu into V. See, coefficient of viscosity, coefficient of friction is obviously dependent on the nature of the surface. If I take the surface, okay, it's filled with this, there's actually called as a laminate. Okay, this laminate will have a constant value of coefficient of friction, whether you talk about this one surface or any other surface. So they are trying to say solid friction is independent. The frictional force that you're talking, the spring balance is there, no? It will show the same value whether you do the experiment in this way, if you like this, or if you like this. Normal force is obviously same, because the same surface and the same block is being placed. Mass will be concentrated at the center logically. So variation of viscosity with temperature and pressure, you don't need it. I've typed it off. So practical applications, again, I think I can give it a self-study. I'll be sharing this document also. Did I share the other one, by the way? No, this one. You asked me for the other one. Did I share? I didn't share it. Please remind me after the question. Tell me.
So velocity gradient, like rate of change of displacement will give you velocity, right?
Okay.
So similar to that, then velocity gradient should give some other value, right? Like it's a rate of change in change.
It is giving no. It's just called as velocity gradient because you're seeing how much is the difference in the velocity with respect to the distance. That's it. It's just a parameter. It's like an attribute used to measure something.
So it's not conclusion, right?
It doesn't give any other quantity. It is just a velocity gradient. That's it.
Okay.
Okay. So this formula actually involves a little bit of capillary action and all. So this one I will explain it after I explain the capillary action. So there is a word that is used. So let me go to the next part. Now I'll explain another law called as Stokes law. Okay, this is also another important concept, and you will be doing this experiment in the lab. Let me explain what it is. So write down Stokes law. The heading as Stokes law. So let me create a similarity here. If you look at the way this chapter is designed, I told you. So what is the name of this chapter? Mechanical properties of fluids, or I call it as fluid mechanics. So in fluid mechanics, what is the first part that we saw? Fluid statics. Then we saw fluid dynamics, right? So when I spoke about fluid statics, what are all the concepts we learned under this? So variation of pressure with depth, you saw this formula rho GH. So you should not get, so you saw this rho GH in two places. One is here, and second you saw it in Bernoulli's equation. But what is the difference in the context? So here rho GH depends, here rho GH is what? It is a variation of pressure with respect to depth. Here H stands for depth. Whereas in that case it is potential energy per unit volume. So when you measure potential energy, you will always measure with respect to a reference surface. So it is always generally measured from the bottom. So don't get confused when you're using this formula. Okay. So variation of pressure with depth. Then what did we see? We saw Pascal's law. Then we saw something called as very important one, which spoke about buoyancy. We spoke about Archimedes principle. So again, when it comes to fluid dynamics, there are multiple concepts that we have seen. So in fluid dynamics also, you can talk about ideal and non-ideal fluids. So when I spoke about ideal fluids, there are two important equations that we saw. What are they? One is equation of continuity. Equation of continuity and Bernoulli's principle. Right. Under Bernoulli's principle, we saw different applications. What are they? One we saw Venturi meter. Then speed of reflex, that is Torricelli's law. Then what else did we see? I think these two are the important applications. Right? Yes. Then there is something called as Magnus effect also, which I gave it as self-study. That is what will happen when the ball is spinning in the wind and all those things. Magnus effect. Okay. So this is another point. I hope you're clear to this, right? Under non-ideal fluid, what did we see? We saw about viscosity and coefficient of friction. So coefficient of friction, we saw acting between two different layers. Now, there is a similarity. So when you speak about Archimedes principle and fluid statics, when a solid comes in contact with a liquid, that is partially or completely immersed into a liquid, you are going to speak about Archimedes principle. In a similar way, so there what is happening, the solid will get immersed, it will not have any acceleration or velocity, we will never be concerned about it. Look at every problem, we are only concerned about what? Two parameters. One is how much is the immersed portion and how much is the buoyant force acting on it. These two are the variations that were acting, because that is under static condition. Whereas if the same solid is coming in contact with a liquid, and if the solid is having a velocity associated with it, then we speak about Stokes law. You're able to understand how the topics are related, so you should not get confused on this aspect. Right? So Stokes law mainly speaks about the viscous drag experienced by liquid. So it is not going to be under ideal condition. It is still going to be under a non-ideal fluid, which is having viscosity. So when you take a solid sphere, okay, this law itself is explained with respect to a sphere. So when you take a solid sphere and drop it into a liquid, which liquid? A viscous liquid, then you can observe one important. Okay, what is going to happen? So if I take this bottle, liquid is there. If I drop an iron ball into this, what is going to happen? It will slowly start moving down. It will slowly start moving down under what influence? Why is it moving down in the first place? Because of its own weight. So weight is pulling it down. But will the liquid welcome it? Will it say you come? No. If you try to push it away, because liquid has a property of exhibiting buoyancy. So it will upthrust. It will try to push it upwards. But the solid will be able to succeed. So think of this thing. There are two wars that are happening. One is due to its force. The solid is trying to move in the downward, due to its own weight, it is moving in the downward direction. But the liquid is trying to give an upthrust. When will the solid succeed to move in the downward direction? Only when it is able to overcome this. Apart from this, if the liquid is viscous, then what else would have happened? It would have experienced an additional force to the upthrust, which is the viscous drag. And how will it act? With respect to the sphere, it will act tangential. So it will push the layers of the liquid and try to go in the downward direction. And the Stokes' law mainly speaks about the tangential viscous force that is experienced by the so-called solid sphere. Okay, and it is observed to be something like this. Yeah, this is derived only for a solid sphere. That is why you will actually do this experiment also in the lab to find something called as terminal velocity. Are you people asked to write the records? Are you writing it? You would have not written it, but there is an experiment where you will calculate the terminal velocity of a particular solid. So that solid that you're going to drop is a solid sphere. Okay, so the base for that is an application of, so the terminal velocity itself works on the principle of Stokes. Okay, so it is defined something like this: viscous drag of a body falling through a liquid. Let me read out, then you can write down. I'll give you the mathematical equation. So when an object falls through a viscous fluid, the layer of the fluid in contact with the liquid, what will it try to do? The layer of the fluid in contact with the body moves with its velocity. 1 minute. The layer of the fluid in contact with the body moves with its velocity. Why will it happen? Because the solid will try to push the layers of the liquid beside it with the velocity of this itself. Like how we spoke about a fixed surface yesterday. Okay, when this is going to happen, what will happen is the fluid at a larger distance from it remains at rest. Because the solid will have the privilege to disturb whom? Only the liquid which it is in contact with. But what will happen to the layers which are slightly away? So let's say there is a solid sphere, there is the amount of water you have. Okay, so the surface which is in contact with the water will get dragged in the direction of the solid sphere with the velocity which this object has. Whereas, what will the layer here do? It will be at rest. So if there is a liquid, you are able to understand. So it will be at rest. What is the time? Oh, 5. It's a relative thing only, but it will be at rest only. No. It is going to move steadily. It is not going to move very fast. It is going to fall very slow. That is what happens. Okay. So, however, the fluid at the large distance from it will remain at rest. Guys, give me 2 minutes time. Okay. So this produces what? Relative motion between different layers that are there in the liquid in the vertical direction. Okay. So as a result, the body experiences what? So when there is a difference in the velocity between subsequent layers, the coefficient of viscosity will come into picture. So when coefficient of viscosity comes, obviously it will experience a viscous force. And that viscous force is observed to be what? That's what is given there. So this retarding force increases with increase in velocity. Have this in your mind. Okay, as it is moving downwards, the layer in contact with the liquid will move with the same velocity, whereas the layers at a farther distance will be at rest, due to which the object will experience a viscous force. So this viscous force will happen what? Will increase with the velocity of the object. So as the object is moving down, its velocity will increase because it is accelerating in the downward direction. Hence, the viscous force will also increase. So what does Stokes' law tell? According to Stokes' law, the backward viscous force acting on a small spherical body of radius r moving with a uniform velocity v through a fluid of viscosity neta is given as 6 pi times neta into r into v. Okay, this is the outline. You need not worry about it. Tomorrow's class will continue from here. That's what they told uniform velocity. When you do that experiment, right, terminal velocity is there, right? The terminal velocity is the uniform velocity attained by the object. So when I show you the derivation of that, you will be able to understand. Maybe the air drag will be slightly different, right, compared to the liquid. Velocity. 1 minute. Can I end this session? Can I end this session? Sir is waiting.
Sir, so this Stokes' law is about like tangential force between the
Solid
solid
sphere and the
as well
liquid.
of liquid, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So can I end the session, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay.